All right, boys. Let us now look ahead to this coming weekend's MMA action. This time, not in the UFC. There's no UFC this weekend. But we have Bellator action. Bellator 285. Bellator MMA in Dublin. So it's going down in the 3 Arena in Dublin, Ireland. The main event being Benson Smooth Henderson against Peter Queally. I was saying to Omar before we started recording, people from Ireland have the most Irish last names. Like, they don't play. They don't play. Like, super Irish names in Ireland. Peter Queally. Yeah. You just want to say it with the Irish brogue, right?
Yeah.
It kind of begs you. Anyway, we're going to talk about, break down, and predict 3, I believe, of these fights from Bellator 285. But, gentlemen, any other fights or fighters that you want to spotlight for our viewers and listeners right now?
Omar, do you have any, or you want me to handle this?
No, bro, I don't know nobody on this card, man.
So, it's a decent card, to be honest. There's things worth watching throughout this card. I'll give you a handful. Carl Albrechtsen is a light heavyweight in Bellator who has a very legitimate resume. We've talked about him on here before a couple times. He's fighting Carl Moore. He's a guy who I feel like already should have kind of got jumped into somewhere near this title picture, fighting a bigger name, Albrechtsen, but for some reason it's going a little slow with him. So if he takes out Carl Moore, I think maybe we might finally get there, and he's like a 5-1 favorite, so he's somebody to watch for sure. Another one, similar boat, is Brett Johns. We know how good Brett Johns is, former UFC fighter. He has still, in his career, only lost to 3 people: Aljamain Sterling, Pedro Munoz, Danny Sabatello. That's pretty good competition for his only 3 losses. He's fighting Jordan Winsky on this card. He's also a big favorite. I would watch him. A potential scrap on this card is Georgi Karkanyan versus Kane Musa. Both these guys have been up and down at this point in their careers. Neither's really at the upper level of lightweight in Bellator, but I think this one might be a scrap. So I would tune into that one. And then you have a kid, Kieran Clark, who's kind of one of these Bellator plucks these guys out who have small records and they kind of build them up. But he is 6-0 now. He's looked very impressive. So he's fighting Raphael Hudson. Obviously, he'll be the hometown boy in Ireland. He'll probably have big crowd support. So it'll be interesting to see what Kieran Clark can do. And then one other fight that we are not going to break down, though it's on the main card, is Leah McCourt versus Diana Silva, which is kind of a big fight at women's featherweight to shake that out. Leah McCourt recently fought for a title, but this one's tight odds. Silva will be an intriguing matchup for her, so that's another one. So really, there's a handful of fights on this card with intrigue beyond the 3 that we're going to preview here.
Okay. Well, here we go. Working up the card, we're going to start with Mads Burnell versus Pedro Carvalho. Mads Burnell, of course, the 28-year-old from Denmark, 16-4 as a pro. He's 5'8", by the way. Only 1 win by knockout, but 9 wins by submission. He's coming off of loss against Adam. How do you say his name? Boric. Across the Bellator cage, Pedro Carvalho, the game, 27-year-old from Portugal, 5'11", 12-6 as a pro. More well-rounded record, 2 knockouts, 6 submissions, and 4 decisions. Also coming off a loss. So both of these gentlemen are looking to get back in the win column. Mark, give us a take first and your pick.
All right. Mads is a pretty big favorite here. He's minus 400. Most of the bouts on this card are pretty wide other than the main event. But Mads is minus 400. Pedro is plus 350 as the dog. Pedro Carvalho is a solid fighter. He's had his moments in Bellator. He could possibly trouble Burnell with range striking, but I got to go Burnell here. He's a dog. If anything is not going his way in this fight, I think he just makes it ugly. I think he clinches. I think he goes, for the infighting, takedowns possibly, grappling, etc. I think it's really all in his favor in terms of where this fight's going to take place, and I think he'll bring it to where he needs it to, or change the pace the way he needs it, if he needs to make it a dogfight, something along those lines. And that's what I think he does. I think he just makes it into a scrap. I think that he is very good. I think that he will win this and stay right near the top of this Bellator featherweight division. I know he kind of had his momentum stunted a little bit by Adam Boric, who's also very good and is going to fight for the title now. But I like Mads, and give me him here. I think maybe land some punches that kind of stun Carvalho, presents a sub, and Mads taps him in the third round.
Nice. Omar, anything to add? Did you take a pick?
I would have to agree. I like Mads Burnell as well. I think his game is very smothering. He's a very exhausting fighter to look at. The man is constantly trying to either get you to the ground or work once you're on the ground. I think he drowns Pedro personally, and I think it starts early, and I think it happens often. I think he gets the second round, and Pedro is probably pretty worked up until that point. I think Mads Burnell is going to be able to find a submission from there. I go second round submission, Mads Burnell.
Yeah, I think Burnell's found more success in Bellator, and I agree. He is a relentless fighter, especially when it comes to being on the ground. So I agree. I think he's going to find this fight to the ground, and he's going to finish it on the ground. I'm going to go Burnell TKO. I'll say round 3. Okay. Co-main event. It's a fun one. Going down at 205 pounds in the Bellator light heavyweight division. Yoel, Soldier of God, Romero, taking on Melvin Manhoef. Whew. Man, what a matchup at Bellator. So Romero, of course, long tenure in the UFC. Recent transplant over to Bellator. He dropped his first fight under the Bellator banner to Phil Davis. And then he got his first Bellator win against Alex Polizzi at Bellator 280 back in May by TKO, doing Yoel things. Also at 205, by the way. In the UFC, he was always at 185. If you don't know, Yoel Romero is 45 years old, and he still looks like he's 25. Originally from Cuba, he is 14-6 as a pro. No way. That's his record as a pro, and he's that old? He's only 14-6? Don't you think he would be like 38-10?
Yeah. I mean, dude, he started kind of late, and he never fought that often.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Has never won a pro MMA bout by submission, but he does have 12 knockouts. That's a pretty significant 86% finish rate by knockout. Melvin Manhoef, who you think of Manhoef as an old fighter, but he's only 1 year older than Yoel Romero at 46. He's a 46-year-old from the Netherlands. He is 32-15 with 1 draw, 2 no contests as his record. Out of his 32 victories, he has a better finish rate than Yoel Romero with 29 knockouts. That's a 91% finish rate.
The only way he wins fights.
It's the only way he can win fights. He does have 3 decisions on his record, but generally speaking, he only wins fights by knockout. This is going to be... Someone's going to sleep in this fight. Someone's going to sleep. Real quick, one last thing. Melvin Manhoef coming off of a loss against Corey Anderson back in November of 2020 at Bellator 251. Omar, let me throw this over to you first. Give us your take, your breakdown, and your pick of Romero versus Manhoef.
Melvin Manhoef also coming off of a spectacular win against a bunch of dicks who tried to rob him. So can't forget about
That's
that. This fight is super interesting, and I feel like it really shouldn't be, but it really is. Melvin Manhoef has been around for ever at this point. I believe started off in the Muay Thai scene and then worked his way into the MMA scene, was quite successful. I don't think as successful as he was in the Muay Thai scene, but definitely stepped up in competition and has done well. Yoel Romero is Yoel Romero, and there are a lot of things I can see from both sides that can make this very interesting. Leg kicks from Melvin Manhoef are a real thing. Like, we talked about Jose Aldo here and his leg kicks and legendary leg kicks and how it changed the game and, in his fights and things like that. Melvin Manhoef has the same type of leg kicks that Jose Aldo has for the most part, right? When he throws those kicks, he's throwing those kicks to literally rip your leg off. That is pure Muay Thai leg kick right there. Yoel Romero isn't the best at like getting away from shit, and he's not the best at checking things all the time. And to his credit, the man, he looks like a piece of steel, so I'm sure it takes quite a bit for him to feel anything in the first place. But Melvin's not that dude you want to try that with. At least I wouldn't think so. To the same point, Yoel's explosiveness, Yoel's ability to carry power in his hands, Yoel's reckless ass wrestling where he doesn't control anybody, but he can flip Melvin like if he was a pizza dough. It's all of that is very, very intriguing, and I can't even really tell you how specifically this is going to go down. What I will say is I think Yoel Romero is just more experienced. I think he's a better fighter overall when it comes to MMA. If this was a straight Muay Thai fight, I think we'd have a different conversation. But with this being an MMA fight, I think Yoel Romero is going to have the upper hand here. I think he eats shit. I think his leg does get a bit torn up by the end of this fight, no matter how it goes. But I do think Yoel Romero ends up winning this fight. I think they get into a bit of a slugfest a little bit later on down the road. I'm going to go with TKO, round 3, Yoel Romero.
Okay. Mark, give us your take and your pick of Romero versus Manhoef.
MMA is a crazy fucking sport. If I had told you, what was it, maybe 5 years ago when they fought? I'm not even sure. When Yoel's in there scrapping with Robert Whittaker, that like, oh yeah, a few years from now, he's actually going to co-main event an event against Melvin Manhoef in Ireland. You'd be like, what? Like, in what planet could that ever occur?
In Ireland, yeah.
Here we are. Just all of it. Like him fighting, like you wouldn't think Melvin was still fighting. You would think, why would he ever be matched up with Melvin Manhoef in any scenario? Why would it be in Ireland? Like none of it would have made any sense. And here we are. And it still doesn't really make that much sense. I don't know why this fight is happening even now. But I do agree with Omar. It is oddly intriguing. I guess it's because of who we know Yoel Romero is and that he just can't be trusted as much as I love the guy and as unbelievable I think he is as a fighter. And when you have a guy who can't necessarily be trusted against a world-famous knockout artist, crazy shit can happen. So there is a little bit of intrigue here. And if you don't know Melvin Manhoef, this dude has been knocking guys out since you were like in diapers. Yes. And like he KO'd Mark Hunt. The dude is a legendary knockout artist. And I think this could be wild because I've heard Melvin say this may be the end for him and that he may be walking away here. So if this is his retirement fight, I could see him coming out here and just saying, fuck it. Like, I know I'm an underdog in this fight. I'm pushing for this thing from jump, and I'm going for the kill. Yeah. And he is dangerous no matter what his age is. And knowing Yoel, I don't think he's going to wrestle as much as obviously that would be the path of least resistance and the way to ensure a victory here. I think Yoel wants to get in there and exchange with Melvin Manhoef because that's just how his brain works. So it is interesting. I'm nervous about Yoel doing something stupid and blowing it, but he should win. He is significantly better at this point in their careers, and his peak was above Melvin's peak. I mean, Yoel's unbelievable. He can wrestle if needed. I don't know, like I said, if he'll even do it. But that aside, he's faster. He has plenty of his own power, and his striking has looked really slick lately. The striking that he put on display against Alex Polizzi was some of the nastiest striking and timing that we've ever seen from Yoel. So, and there was a calmness to it as well. So if he can bring that type of striking into this fight, I think he can be the one to put someone down here. And frankly, you have to pick Yoel Romero because he should not be losing to Melvin Manhoef at this point in time. So I will say that he can catch an aggressive Melvin in this fight. Give me Yoel Romero, round 2 knockout.
I like both your takes, and I agree. Skill for skill at this point, especially, even though they're only 1 year apart in age. Yeah. I think it's also part of the miles. Manhoef has almost 50, close to 50 fights, whereas
like triple almost, right?
yeah,
Some
Yoel has 20 fights on his record. This will be his 20.
Melvin's been kickboxing, as far as I know, since like the 90s. Yeah. And, Yoel, I'm sure, has probably been wrestling since then, but I would assume the wear and tear has got to be just a little bit different.
Melvin's MMA career started in 95.
Whew. Wow.
That's crazy.
Crazy.
But, guys, where you're both wrong is that this fight is not getting out of the first round, okay? This is going to be a quick slugfest. Very exciting, might I add. Melvin Manhoef is going to catch Yoel. Yoel does not have the best movement. He's going to hurt him with the leg kick. He's going to rock him on his jaw, and he's going to start doing Melvin Manhoef things. He's going to rush him. He's going to be super aggressive, and Yoel's going to catch him. Yoel's going to hurt him right back, but Melvin's not going to have the better chin here. And I think Romero's chin is going to win the day, and he's going to get him out of there from somewhere between the middle and the end of the first round.
I like that take. I can absolutely see that.
Okay, let's talk about this main event between Peter Queally and Benson Henderson. So Queally, he is a hometown boy for Bellator 285 going down in Dublin, Ireland. Peter, the showstopper, Queally, he is from Dublin himself. He's a 33-year-old from Ireland, 13-6 as a pro, also with one draw. Let's see, mostly decisions for him. 5'11". He's coming off a loss against Patricky back in November of 2021 by TKO. Benson Smooth Henderson doesn't really need a huge introduction here. He's one of the more well-known fighters in MMA. He also has been fighting for a minute. 38-year-old from Glendale, Arizona, 29-11 as a professional. Very well-rounded guy, brings a lot of skills into the cage, and he's coming off of a win against Islam Mamedov.
Yep,
Mamedov.
Bellator 273 back in January of this year. Mark, give us your take first of this main event between Henderson and Queally.
All right, we got Benson as a minus 205 favorite. Peter Queally is plus 165 as the dog, so fairly close. If you did not see Peter Queally's entrance last time he fought in Ireland, watch this time because it was awesome, the response that he got last time. He came out to Zombie, which I learned that night and never knew is a song about the Troubles in Ireland, which is funny because we were just talking about the Troubles before we started recording here tonight, and the crowd response was huge. It was a dope walkout, so I imagine it'll be similar here. My issue with this fight is that I don't feel comfortable picking either of these guys to win a fight ever. Benson Henderson, we've talked about multiple times on this show, just the way he fights now. He kind of lets fights get away. Sometimes he's not as aggressive as he should be. He can hang with anybody, but is he going to necessarily win? Is the decision going to go his way? And Peter Queally is a guy who, he's had his moments in Bellator, but I've never really believed that he is on this level. Like, he's been getting these fights recently against this upper level of the Bellator lightweight division, which, to be clear, is not even sniffing the UFC lightweight division, but that's a different conversation. And I don't know if I believe that he's on the same level as some of these guys who are up there, like a Patricky or a Benson or some of these other guys. So I'm struggling. I'm struggling to pick this fight a bit. Peter Queally's a tough dude. He's going to come at you. He always comes at you. He makes you work. He has a 4.5-inch reach advantage over Benson, which could be a factor. And he's a big, strong dude as well. So in any grappling, as much as Benson might be the more technical grappler, Queally's very strong. He's going to have the support of the home crowd. Granted, that didn't work out for him last time that he fought here, but maybe different on this night. But I can't pick the guy. As much as I struggle to pick Benson, until I see Peter Queally, he has the one big win over Patricky, but it's when he cut Patricky and he won via cut. Other than that, he just doesn't have it on his resume. And until I see it, I am struggling to pick it. So I'm going to go with Benson. I'm going to say that because of the fact that he still manages to give a close fight to anyone these days and is still so hard to hurt and so hard to put away, that Queally does not get him out of there, and that rounds start going Benson's way as Benson starts to analyze what's in front of him a bit more. So I will say that Queally's going to come out a little bit hot, but that Benson settles in and starts to control the fight, and Queally just ends up kind of a step behind as it's going on. So I will say Benson Henderson UD with minimal confidence.
Omar, give us your take on your pick.
I agree with everything that Mark said. I think where we disagree is I think I have less confidence in Benson winning a decision at any given time than I do Peter Queally. And that might not be supported by the numbers. And I'm totally aware of that. But Benson Henderson has always given me bad juju vibes when it comes to him needing to win a decision. Because even when he wins a decision, it's like, happened to be a split decision. Not really sure how that fight went. And it just, I don't know.
It's true.
It freaks me out to put my eggs in that basket. Both choices here are kind of like, what poison would you care for instead? I'm going to go with Peter Queally. I think Benson Henderson's going to shit the bed. And I think he's just going to let it fall into Peter Quilly's lap. I do think Benson Henderson is the better fighter, technically. But I think like we've talked about and how we were just talking about now, I just think he's going to give up the opportunities that he's going to need in order to really solidify this fight for himself. I even think it was bold to choose unanimous decision, Mark, but there you are. I'm going to go with Peter Queally. I'm going to go with Queally by split decision.
I'm kind of just envisioning a world where Queally comes out very hot with the crowd support, but that Benson survives whatever's going on, and Queally sort of tires, and Benson wins like rounds 4 and 5. So as long as Benson could get one of those earlier ones, I feel like he can do it, but who really friggin' knows?
Yeah, who knows? Yeah, I give the edge to Benson Henderson here for his experience, his cage time. I agree that I think it'll be a close fight, as most of his are. I mean, he has an alarming number of split decisions on his record. So many. You think the guy would learn at some point of like, man, why do I have so many fights that go to the judges and like nobody knows who won?
Yeah, Jorge did. Benson should have pulled a Jorge at some point in his career.
Right.
I mean, he says Benson. All the right things in these press conferences, right? He's like, Bellator pays me this much, and I feel really bad I haven't performed. Great. So that means we'll see you perform in your next fight, right?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to go with Benson, but given the fact that Queally is in his home country, and I agree, I think he'll definitely come out hot, and he's gonna be riding a ton of energy. I'm going to say Benson by split decision.
Sure, I didn't factor in the home country judging. Maybe I should be saying split and not UD.
Yeah. That does it, boys. Not a whole lot to preview this week for this coming weekend, but